Performance Max.
Yes.
What is it? You said it's the new thing. Everybody loves it. I know nothing about it.
Well, and I'll say, I don't know if everyone loves it, but I do know that Perpetual Traffic, the podcast,
Yeah.
and the couple of gentlemen there that run it, they sound like they absolutely love
Really?
Performance Max. And here's the brief explanation of what it is.
Okay.
Essentially, instead of doing, you know how when you build your campaigns on Google, you would say, like, if you have a target audience, you build out like your own search campaign, its own YouTube campaign, its own display,
Okay.
like to reach them all.
Okay.
Performance Max puts all that into one.
Okay.
So all the placements are kind of batched
Okay.
into one. And then what it does, and so, you know, and once again, this is new. So supposedly what this does is it essentially does almost like its sales cycle for all the different placements for you. So it kind of like, for example, let's say we were trying to sell Blake, right?
Okay.
Instead of like me creating all these campaigns and forcing each campaign on you everywhere you go, Performance Max is going to say, well, Blake's in market for a new camera, right? Because he's in market for a new camera, he's showing up on this website, so we'll show him some display, then we'll show him some content from a website, then we'll show him a YouTube video. So it's kind of like it chooses individuals and then uses the placements as it thinks it's best necessary to get you to convert.
Okay.
Does that
So
make
it's
sense?
gearing placements and part of the journey based on the person viewing the ads.
Correct.
So you set up a bunch of assets, and then behind the scenes, Google knows a bunch about a person.
Yep.
And so they start showing you placements based on that. I'm guessing some sort of escalation as they see more and more. Maybe there's higher intent content a little bit later after they're more aware or something like that.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing that they're mentioning. I have run a couple of these campaigns as tests.
Okay.
One thing that I do notice, you can either force or not force, and so far the recommendation is to not force, where the customer goes to. So what happens is if you have all your tracking pixels on your website, Google actually sends the person to the page that they think is most relevant to help the buyer's journey.
Okay.
Right? So instead of just a landing page, it'll send them to a blog post first, and then something second, and something third.
Okay.
And my initial thought is probably the same as yours. Well, how would they know that, right? But this one, so the guys over at Perpetual Traffic that are using it are saying they're getting like insane results.
Okay.
And they are noticing that the landing pages are different. They're sending them to different parts of their website that they would never think to send them to. And so this is the part where, and you're probably similar to me, where I say, wow, you really could just, like, do I trust giving up all of that, I guess, control on the buyer's journey just to Google?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. And this is something, I mean, my thoughts are centered around, we've talked about this. Different businesses are at different places of their journey.
Yep.
My instant thought after you explained to me what it was is, my guess is Perpetual Traffic guys and gals are working with bigger budgets.
Yeah.
And with more established
you're
with
100%
more
correct.
established businesses with more pages on their site.
Yep.
And therefore you have more touch points that the algorithm can use to learn what a person is doing and what types of people are doing. And it probably works really, really well when you have big budgets, large traffic volumes, large site with organic traffic even, and all of that. And I think that's great. I hope that they point out on the Perpetual Traffic that their experience might be different, because if you're running ads and this is your first time running ads and I've got $100 a day, which is a big budget for me, you know, that's $3,000 a month on ads. Crazy, right? I'm going to set this up and I have a website that has 4 pages. You know, home page, an offer page, a thank you page, an about me page, and maybe a place to contact. So maybe 5 pages. And I'm going to follow Perpetual Traffic's advice on this Performance Max. It's probably not going to work for you. And that doesn't mean the Perpetual Traffic is wrong. What I'm saying is different businesses need to function differently, right?
Yep.
And those were my initial thoughts. What are you thinking?
Well, number one, they did mention that it seems like they're one of the few that love Performance Max.
Okay.
They've mentioned that there's several other, digital Google Ads specific kind of gurus that don't believe in it, and they do not think it works.
Okay.
So they have mentioned this. Now, one thing that I did notice, they didn't point it out specifically, but I did notice, like, kind of off the cuff, they had mentioned what they were spending, and it was a significant number,
like thousands a day, or
so they're like in the thousands, multiple thousands per day.
Yeah,
versus
that's a big difference, right? If you're spending $1,000 a day, that's $30,000 a month in ads. A lot of businesses aren't to that point.
Yep,
and that's fine.
But yeah, I think what you're saying about budget's 100% correct, though, because it is, when they mention that, there isn't a mention of like starting it at $10 a day or something, right? It's like you're spending, I think they even said like a minimum $100 a day.
Yeah.
Right? And so here's the other thing that they had mentioned is this can take up to 90 days or something for it to really work. And
I don't doubt, but I'm also thinking $1,000 a day for 90 days to get it to start working. So you got to have a
$100,000 budget.
I mean, you'll be making sales at that point. But what I'm getting at is you've got to commit some serious funds.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to lose $90,000 that whole time. You'll make sales, but you have to be prepared to stick with it.
Yep.
And have your delivery down and everything. Because the other problem is, if you're not used to spending those types of budgets, you as a business might struggle with the delivery of that much in sales, right? And so then you have to end up turning your ads off or reducing the scope of the ads because you're scrambling to deliver, and then you're not getting the benefits because you didn't let it learn for the 90 days or whatever. But that being said, I do see this as something that could be extremely powerful. Especially for companies that are big, because marketing campaigns, ad campaigns can get super complex if you're trying to manage every little piece of it. And so I can see this being extremely powerful. I just think there needs to be some caveats. The other thing I would say too is, I don't know if you said the minimum was $100 a day. I don't know if that's Google's minimum or the perpetual traffic guys were saying that was the minimum. I for something like this that needs a lot of data to learn and work, I would want to be well within the minimum. Before I would even attempt it. Because if you're going to be just at the bare minimum to try to get this to work for 90 days,
it's probably not going to work.
It's probably not going to. You're probably not going to see all of the benefits from it.
Well, I think too they are mentioning that this takes time. This is probably something so new that's why they're doing it more than like the day-to-day person, because these individuals just have bigger budgets to actually test this all out. And so I think they didn't specifically say that what their budgets were and things like that, but you can tell based on just listening to the podcast, you can tell that, they're not spending a little bit. They're spending quite a bit, and they're really, a lot of it is talking about, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, and all the data points. And one of the things that I'm curious to get your opinion on, when I ran a couple of these performance just to see like what this even does, right? I noticed that a very large bulk of the budget went towards display network, Google Display Network. And my thought is, I don't know if I love that, but I also don't know if that's part of what Google knows, right?
Yeah.
My thought is Google Display Network can sometimes be challenging because, they can put them on websites that maybe don't make any sense, or I'm not really sure the quality of that traffic.
Yeah. I mean, I'm laughing because I have such a love-hate relationship with Display Network.
Yeah.
And every time I've worked with anything in Display Network, and let Google kind of decide the budget, it's blown budget on the wrong thing.
Yep.
And putting it on the wrong sites.
Yep.
And the traffic I get from those, if I dive into it and look at the leads we got from those, is low quality.
Yep.
But I think the key is, you said, especially cold traffic.
Yep.
I love display ads for warm traffic.
Yeah.
People that already know who you are, people, so I can keep showing up.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense to
Yep.
me.
The cold traffic.
But cold traffic. And that's I started laughing because this is where I get a little conspiratorial.
Yeah.
All right, I'll dive into my conspiracies here, but none of this is founded. I have no evidence of this, but this is just me thinking. I sometimes wonder if Facebook and Google, they come out with this way to, hey, let us manage all of your things, so that they can kind of prop up the channels that are less profitable for them, but they have a large inventory of places to put ads. And so they'll dump budget into these things because that channel in isolation isn't really profitable for them. But when we have this thing where here's Google. We have 10 billion websites with Google display ads on there, but none of them are really profitable. So let's manage your budgets, and we'll dump money into those areas, and you'll get tons of impressions, and it looks good on paper, but maybe isn't quite the best.
Well, I think what you're saying too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but really to kind of build on that, it feels like maybe the competition is getting so high on the most profitable channels that it makes it harder for newer businesses and things like that. So they try to pretty much like move some of that traffic over to other placements to give you the perception that the cost of traffic has dropped.
Right.
That's what it feels like to me.
Do they blend the CPMs between all of that? Is it like in the reporting, is it a blended CPM?
That's a good question. When I looked into reporting, I think it is a blended.
But you could probably split it out if you need
But you can put placements, because I did. Here's some of the things. Some of the placements I saw when I ran this Performance Max test for this one account, they didn't look great, right? So like, I don't know if there's a way to exclude certain types of sites or whatnot, but I remember having a significant amount of impressions on, I remember a website where it was one of those like very minimal, like when you go to visit the website, it's almost like it's built for not getting you quality traffic. You know what I mean?
Yes.
For a lack of a better way of saying it, it looks like it's just built to just get clicks, but that's it. Like there's not real qualified people reading this website.
Right.
And so that was one of the things that made me turn it off, and maybe I turned it off too soon. But according to them, their recommendation is over time, if you're optimizing for conversion, the system will learn all the sites that don't convert and stop showing it on some of those. And so
I'm okay with that if they would just give me a refund on all that traffic.
Exactly.
Right? Like, but you guys get to keep all that money.
So and that's the tricky part is you're spending money and watching it, and almost like, I'm not smarter than no Google algorithm, but I can tell you, like, a website that's not good, it's not going to convert immediately, right?
Right.
So,
and I think it's great that you'll learn which sites are not going to convert, but I got to blow a bunch of money to make that happen at first. And again, that's fine if you already have a bunch of traffic and you've got your sales cycle down and all that stuff. This is probably an amazing way to really scale up big. But if you're not to that point, I can see this being a bit frustrating.
Well, the targeting options. So here's like the big thing that they're the most excited about.
Okay.
So in the past, they talked about platform.
Okay.
And placement targeting, right? So you use YouTube or search or display, and essentially what you're doing is you're using the placements as you're targeting. Now they're talking more about audience.
Okay.
Right? And so they're saying, like, if I target, let's say, in market for cameras.
Okay.
Theoretically, I'm following the people that are in market on cameras all over the internet. That's what seems to be what they're the most excited about.
Interesting.
Now things have transitioned to audience targeting versus in the past, I guess, only keyword or parameters like that, placement targeting. And
Right. So let me restate then, because it used to be that I could say, okay, I'm targeting cameras, right?
Yeah.
And then I would show up on camera blogs and
Yep.
camera YouTube channels and that kind of stuff. But what you're saying is it's switched because Google knows so much about people and their
Yep.
search history and everything. You could target cameras, and Google might know that Blake is interested in cameras because I've been looking at them and Googling them and watching YouTube videos about them.
Yep.
But then when I hop onto a site that has a completely different interest of mine, say cats,
Yep.
I could see ads
For cameras.
cameras
Correct.
because they know that I'm me, and even though I'm on a cat website,
Yep.
I'm in market to buy a camera right now, and they're going to keep showing me
Correct.
camera stuff.
That's exactly right.
That's a good adjustment. I like that. That will be really interesting. I would love to see if that expands outside of just, is that inside only Performance Max, or is that something that you can use outside of that in a more targeted fashion?
You could use it outside of it.
Okay.
But I guess Performance Max, it's like the ultimate platform.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because it's on all the channels, and I can see that. I can see that.
Here's my hesitation. Okay, so when I run YouTube ads or even some search and display ads in the past, one thing is if I notice if I don't exclude certain things, all the money goes to some of these traffic sites,
yes.
right? So I've learned this the hard way with YouTube ads. Like if you don't exclude certain placements, you'll get a lot of your ads showing on kids' channels.
Yep.
Right? Which is, it's tough to justify, if it's on a kids' channel, are they really going to buy something?
So, and this is, not to interrupt you, but I did interrupt you. So whatever, we'll let you keep going. But this happens to me at my house, right? So all of my TVs are connected to my YouTube account.
Correct. Yep.
So because my kids are younger, whatever, and so when they watch something on YouTube, that's associated with me.
Yep.
Google doesn't know
that my kids are watching.
That my kids are watching. They might think that I just love.
Hey Bear or Blippi, or those are the ones I'm watching right now because of my little kids.
Yeah. So, so it's that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
And that's the challenge, see, because I do believe that Performance Max might run into that same issue, right? Because it's connected to your device.
Yeah.
If my kid is on DisneyWorld.com watching cartoons, he may be served the ad, and so. That's my thing is the placements are difficult because if you don't exclude them, the other one is mobile apps. Like if I don't exclude mobile apps from campaigns, I end up, let's say you spend $100, like $80 of that will be on mobile apps. And then when you look at what mobile apps, then you look and go, there's no way that people that are just playing Words with Friends or something like that I've got 400 clicks from that. And those are
they're accidental clicks.
Those
drive me the worst. Those drive I bumped into that a lot. And unfortunately, it's not necessarily easy to turn off mobile apps. It's very convoluted. But I was working with a client that had a business to business product. Yeah. And if we forgot to shut off mobile apps, it would dump so much of their budget into Clash of Clans.
Oh, yeah.
And they would get a ton of clicks, and no one would fill out the lead form, of course.
Yep.
Because they were playing a game and they accidentally clicked the ad because it takes up half the screen.
Exactly.
And it's just that was the place I was thinking where a lot of budget could be done.
Well,
can you exclude that with Performance Max, or do you have to have it turned on?
That's the thing that, at least when I ran it, I couldn't find where to exclude it.
Oh, interesting.
So it's possible, and I was looking in the wrong area, but I couldn't exclude. Yeah. And that's the first thing I thought of when I saw Performance Max. I said, this would be perfect as long as I can exclude mobile apps and kids channels
and TV
distribution. Then I would be I'd be all on it, but I couldn't. And so then, as soon as I went to my report to see all the placements, a large majority of my impressions looked exactly like when you run Display Network and you don't shut off mobile app. It's all going to mobile apps and things where you're just like, I don't know, but this doesn't seem like the people that are playing these games are going to buy anything.
And they might be the people. They might be the people you're after, but they're not in the buying mood.
Yeah.
If they're playing. And it drives me nuts. If someone's playing a game, they're not going to fill out a checkout form on my site. They're not going to dump in their credit card number. They're in the middle of a freaking game. And many of those games use triggering mechanisms based on timers. And so you can't leave the game for very long or else you lose out on whatever. And so that's frustrating.
So with Performance Max, I just wanted to kind of wrap this up. We want to talk about Performance Max. Give it a shot if you have a big budget and understand that according to kind of the leaders in this space right now, they're saying it can take up to 90 days to really see the results. So really think, if you can stomach 90 days to do that, great. But outside of that, I would just highly recommend maybe looking at doing individual channels at the moment till you can work your budget up to those kind of levels.
Interesting. I'm curious to see where this goes.
Yeah, so the idea, and in theory, this sounds like a fantastic new product. Now I just think the kinks need to be worked out as far as placements, because you know how I feel about placements. When I see those mobile apps or kids channels, I'm just thinking, this is not a placement that should be in there.
Let alone spend a majority of my budget.
And unfortunately, that's that in my experience, that's what's happened. And maybe there are some better and different ways to do it. So I'll stay tuned and we'll report those back to you when we learn. But outside of that, Blake, how do they get a hold of you?
BlakeBuse.com/SM3 is the best way to get in touch with me right now.
And if you want to get a hold of me, it's gregmarshall.co. You can fill out the form. We can book a free strategy session. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Okay, bye.